Hello, this is Jennifer Thompson. I'm the Small Acreage Outreach Coordinator for Wyoming, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Property Improvement Project. This is part of the Small Acreage Outreach Project across the state. I'm here today to talk to us about the project is Dallas Mount. He's a University of Wyoming Extension educator in the southeast corner of the state. Dallas.
Hi, Jenny, and hi, everybody. Well, pleased to be with you today. This is a different role for me in that I am an extension educator, but in this case, I'm also the property owner of the property that we're going to be talking about. Our small acreage issue team talked about this idea back in January, February this year, and we all went back home and found properties to nominate for this, and I chose this piece of property, which at the time we did not own. And about 2 months after I nominated it, the folks put it up for sale, and my wife and I ended up buying it because it's contiguous to property that we've lived in where our house is for the last 10 years. So it's kind of fun to be in both roles, the role of the property owner and the role of the educator in this instance. All right, are we ready to talk about it, Jenny?
Yep.
Okay, so here's what we're talking about, and I'll get my my pen out here. Okay, this is near Wheatland, Wyoming, and Wheatland is in the southeast corner of Wyoming in Platte County. So this is the town of Wheatland right here, a town of about 3,500 people. Our elevation's about 3,700 feet. And this over here is the piece of ground that we're going to be talking about. Wheatland is located in the Wheatland Irrigation District. And an irrigation district is an area that was established with surface irrigation water rights. So they actually diverted water from the Laramie River, which runs up here on the west side of the mountains, and brought it over. And years ago, all this ground used to be flood irrigated in the Wheatland Irrigation District. But where the property is located is in a seep that developed as a result of the Wheatland Irrigation District. And this lake here is what we call Festo Lake. And it was actually a lake that developed as a result of the activities of the Wheatland Irrigation District. And then right over here to the east of the property is another lake. So the property lies between these two lakes in a natural seepy area. This lake, its feed out runs right through here through a dug ditch and runs across that feeds into this lake. And then there's also another drainage from this property here through the middle of the property that we're talking about into that lake. So it's sub-irrigated ground, meaning that it's got a high water table and there's some natural irrigation or flowing of water that occurs across the property. Generally, that water only flows across the property in the months of in the early spring months, and it all's pretty well dried up usually by the month of June. But the grasses continue to have access to some high water table. So, any questions on that, Jenny?
As far as it being a seep, that's fairly unusual for Wyoming, isn't it? For a lot of properties, they tend to be pretty high and dry.
It is, and a lot of the properties that are owned by folks with a few acres tend to be on the higher and drier side. So this might be an exception. Why don't you tell them about the other property that the small acreage team is going to do?
We're going to be covering another property that's in Casper, and it's a high and dry type of property. It's on some old sand dunes, and so you'll be hearing more about that as time goes along.
Okay, so we'll move on here. I'll show you a closer picture here of the property that we're talking about. So this is my home site right here. My family's lived here for about the last 11 years. That's our 2-acre site. The white lines are fences that are currently on the property. And then what we purchased was the 78 that surrounds us here. So that was our old fence line right there. And now the fence line is where the highlighted area is. These are county roads right there. There's one road running north and south and another road running east and west there. Can't put my lines on them very well. But this is the property. So it's an 80-acre piece altogether. It's typically used for grazing, and that's what we're going to use it for too. So a couple of things jump out to you pretty immediately, I hope. And one of those is that if it's used for grazing, the stock water on the property is not very well distributed. This is really the only permanent water source on the property. And then this one was added just a couple years ago as a second water tank. But both of these water sources are located in the far southeast corner of the property. So what we have are areas where animals tend to like to graze, and then areas where it's harder to get animals to graze out here in the western side of the property. So another thing that you might notice from this picture are all these little shrubs that look like from the picture. Well, those are actually Russian olive trees. And at one time, these trees dominated this property fairly intensively. This aerial photograph is from about 2006. And in 2007, a group of ag resource professionals in Wheatland here got together, and we came up with a plan to remove these Russian olive trees from some areas around the Wheatland area that they've been really invasive. And Russian olive was added to the state's noxious weed list a few years ago, and it's really a problem in wet areas. So in areas that have high water tables like this seepy ground, that these trees can be a problem. There's actually some Russian olive trees located in the windbreak here around the house that are not a problem because they are in an area that's not so wet. But in these wet areas, they really take a hold and continue to go. And now here's a picture of what the property looked like. This was in 2007. The year that we removed the trees. And if I went back up one here, this picture was taken from a spot right around in here, looking to the west. So you can see all the trees there, and they were really just a extremely tight thicket in some areas. Back in here, you couldn't hardly even walk through them. So
the Russian olive is just not a problem around the Wheatland area, is it? It's problems in other areas of the state.
That's right. They've got similar projects up in the Bighorn Basin, where they're taking these trees out over in Goshen County along the North Platte River and those areas. So this tree can really be a problem again in wet areas.